Hello friends! So summer is right around the corner and there are so many different fun new activities and hobbies that we can break into during this warmer season, and maybe we could get off of our phones and break away from the screens, because not all of our hobbies have to be inside on the couch now that summer is here and the sun is coming out. So let's jump into some fun new hobbies that we can try out this summer. So the first hobby that you can try out is gardening. And I started gardening last year and we had so many peppers, like 5,000 peppers. And so this year we doubled our gardening space. And I also shifted, instead of buying the pre-prepared sprouts from the stores, I did start to try and germinate some seeds, which was extra rewarding. Gardening is not only a fun hobby to check in on your little plant babies and watch them grow, but vegetable gardening actually has you enjoy the finished product, because you can either eat them directly or you can turn that into another hobby. If you're into preservation, you could make salsa from the peppers. You can make hot sauce. We dried the peppers and made like ghost pepper powder. We did all sorts of fun stuff with our peppers last year, and I had a few cucumbers and a few other things. But this year we have so many more. Like I said, we doubled or even tripled the amount of space that we have all of our gardening babies, all of our little plants in, and we have so many more plants. So we have the peppers again, we have tomatoes, I have a zucchini plant, a squash plant, and a cucumber plant that takes so much work to make sure that they don't take over of our entire yard. Gardening is such a great hobby because you are literally keeping these plants alive. It's usually easier than keeping a kid alive. You have to make sure that they have sun and water, and I like to put eggshells in my tomatoes and coffee grounds in the bed, so I have to keep track of my eggshells and grind those up with my coffee grinds, and I store those in the freezer. And then you have to keep track of the vines, like I said, because my cucumbers and squash and zucchini last year took over the entire yard. So I have my trellises, and I want to make sure that the cucumbers go up on there, and that my zucchinis, a squirrel keeps eating my zucchini plants, but that's a whole different thing. Maybe I should put marigolds or something in. But as an introvert, it's such a good way for me to get out of the house and get some sunshine and a little bit of accountability, because I have to make sure that my plants are staying alive. And I thrive on routine and structure, and sometimes after I get my big kid to school, I mean, it's summer now, but whenever I would get her to school, I just want to come home and like rot on the couch with the baby, because I'm exhausted already. Like, getting out of the house is so much. So I come home instead, and I have to get out into the backyard to check on my garden. And I also have to mow the lawn because the bugs are ridiculous. Like, as homeowners, we have to spray. Oh, speaking of bugs, it came on command. We have to mow our own lawn. Well, I mean, obviously we mow the own lawn, but we have to spray our own lawn to keep the mosquitoes under control, because they are ridiculous. And every time it rains, they just plant eggs and whatever they do, I'm not sure. Mosquitoes are out of control. So my little baby, she loves to play in the dirt. She's like my little Cabbage Patch Kid, and I know it's so good for her spiritually, but I don't want her to come back inside covered in bug bites, because there's also a cat that keeps pooping in my garden. I swear, every time I go outside and I can see the little flies, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I have to like take my spade and like dig out their pile of covered poop, because they cover their poop and then I eat it, and I'm like, get out of my garden, you pile of poop. There's a form of gardening for anyone. You don't have to own your house. You don't have to have a giant yard. You can have herbs in your kitchen. You can have all different techniques. I definitely recommend jumping into gardening and trying just one plant this year. See what you can do and see what works for you. Another fun hobby is bird watching. And before you tell me that bird watching is for old people, shut your mouth, because it's so freaking cool to see all the different birds out there. You can kind of hear birds outside my window now. There's more than just the robin and those angry geese that chase you around in the parking lot and go My mom started bird watching a few years ago, and she bought the Audubon books and the binoculars. My sister lives in New York State, I live in Virginia State, my parents live in South Carolina. But we started sending my mom pictures of birds for her to identify, because she just really got into it, and my mom has all the different bird feeders in her house, all the different, like the camera outside of the window that helps you so you can see the birds, all the cool things. And so we started sending her pictures of birds to help us identify. So now we're in a group chat and we get to see each other's birds, which is really freaking cool. And then I joined a bird watching community for Virginia, so that way I can see all the different birds that I might end up seeing while I'm living here. There is a Facebook group and identification apps for all the birds in your community, whether you live in Virginia State or South Carolina or New York. Like, I'm sure there are different groups for New Mexico, where my husband's family is from, and there's all different birds there than there are here. You could set a goal this summer to find a certain number of birds. Maybe you want to find 10 birds this summer or 50 birds this summer. You could find a list of birds and be like, I want to find each of those, and have like a little scavenger hunt. You could set up a little bird area in your yard with a bird feeder and a bird bath, and you could have one of those cameras like I mentioned outside of your window, so that way you could see your birds and see which ones come to visit you. Before you know it, you'll be buying different bird seeds for all of your birds. Like, I know bluebirds like mealworms, and cardinals like the black oil sunflower seeds. But it's important to know that if you feed the birds in the summer and you go into the winter, they're going to rely on that. So you will have to commit to feeding them in the winter, otherwise they will not have that food that they've relied on. So you do want to make sure that you are committed to these birds. But if it snows in your area, you don't want them to expect the food to be there and then go hungry. There's so many birds out there in the summer, so it's actually a really great hobby to kickstart in the summer, because you could even find a nest. I just found a robin's egg when I was mowing the lawn the other day, so I stuck it in my strawberry pot. A duck that lives down the street, or maybe it's a pair of ducks, and whenever we go on our evening walks, there's these little ducks, and they like cross the street. I have not found their nest yet, but they've got to have a nest. It is so much fun to watch the birds in your yard and in your community. And you don't have to buy those dorky outfits. You don't need binoculars. You don't need a bucket hat. You can just wear whatever you want. We did see some birders a few weeks ago at Mother's Day. We went to the beach and there was a nesting. They had these fences up and they were like, don't go in this area. And there were these tropical birds that were nesting. It was really cool. And there were two birders there with their big giant cameras. And they were wearing the dorky outfits. I'm not going to lie. We were not wearing the dorky outfits. I was probably wearing this shirt, to be totally honest. It's my favorite shirt. There are so many different birds in your community, and I really think that if you give it a shot and you just look at the birds in your yard to start, and then maybe at the playground, you'll start to really get interested, and then you'll identify like, oh, that's the male, that's the female, and oh, there's a little pair. And then you'll be looking up which of these birds mate for life, which ones have multiple. There's so much that you can do as a birding community, within the birding community. So this next summer hobby is gonna sound crazy, because it's actually, I call it my after dinner walk. And walking is a hobby that you can do year round. I know a lot of people aren't runners. I am a runner sometimes, and I'm never going to be able to convince a non-runner to become a runner, and that's okay. I love running. It doesn't have to be for you. Walking at night after dinner is a good summer hobby because it stays light outside so much longer than in the winter. So depending on where you live, it might not get dark till 8 o'clock at night. So you can eat dinner at 5 or 6 or even 7 o'clock at night, and then you can walk a mile or so, and it'll help you digest your food. It'll give you fresh air. It's cooler if you live in the hotter regions, like down here in the south, so you don't have to worry about being drenched in sweat as if you were going in the middle of the daytime. No one wants to walk at 1 p.m. in Texas. We don't want to do that. We use it as a great way to relax before bedtime, especially for the kids. So my big kid usually rides her scooter or her bike, and then the baby has finally gotten comfortable with her stroller so she can relax. She puts her feet up, she looks out. We stop at all the little free libraries, we count flowers, we just like to explore our neighborhood. Sometimes we walk the same path each time, Or sometimes we'll be like, hey, let's go this way and find somewhere new. We live near a yacht club, which is wild. So sometimes we'll like pass this crazy house and we'll be like, how much do you think that costs? And my kid would be like, $10 million. And it's a $2.5 million. So she's actually not that far off, because our house was not $2.5 million, I promise you. It's a nice way to just get out and get fresh air, meet some neighbors. Maybe there's someone on your porch. You can wave and say hello. And then you go back home and you relax, watch a movie, and go to sleep. I'm probably the only person who is still obsessed with painting rocks, but there was a huge rock painting hobby influx back in like 2015 or 16, right when my big kid was born, and then it faded out. There were all these rock Facebook groups, and we had rock painting meetups, and I ran a race where the prizes, like if you won first, second, or third place in your age group, was a painted rock with your age group. Like painting rocks was so popular, but then it fizzled out. And I don't know why, because painting rocks is so much fun and it's relaxing, and you can't paint rocks wrong. There's no wrong way to paint rocks. You could paint your own rocks and put them in your yard or your garden, or you could drop them off somewhere, like community rocks. So I live in Hampton, so we could put hashtag Hampton Rocks, or bigger, like 757 Rocks. You could put your community or your city or your zip code. Back when we lived in Somerville, South Carolina, there was a specific park, Azalea Park, and people would literally paint the rocks and put azalea rocks, and they would just drop off their rocks in the Azalea Park. You could sprinkle them around your neighborhood. You could bring them to work and hand them out. Sometimes you can paint themes. So like one time I painted all of the characters of Inside Out. One time I painted the Ninja Turtles. I love to paint Ladybug. You could use actual paint. You could use paint pens. You could use watercolor pencils. People even do like decoupage. Like, you don't necessarily have to seal them afterwards. Acrylic paint tends to be fine. But I used to host paint parties, so I would go to the gardening store and get a whole bunch of rocks and invite people over, and then we all painted a few rocks, and then we could trade them like Girl Scout style. It'd be great for a Girl Scout meeting. Because like I said, there's no wrong way to paint rocks. If you want inspiration, Pinterest has thousands of inspiration pictures. If you are looking for a completely easy, no wrong way to enjoy the summer hobby, consider painting rocks. Now this next summer hobby shouldn't be all that surprising, since I think I mentioned I am from upstate New York, but I absolutely love hiking. I used to hike a lot back then because I lived up in the Adirondack Mountains, and I want to do a lot more actual hiking now that we're like an hour or 2 hours from Shenandoah, but we don't always get up there. So for Christmas this past year, we bought a notebook with all of the Virginia state, national, and state parks. So it's like a guidebook of sorts. And we're trying to use that as like a passport, sort of. So like a passport to adventure. And every time that we go to a new park, whether it's a state park or a national park, we can put a sticker on that page, and you can date it, you can journal, you can kind of keep track of what we saw. Maybe we could take pictures and glue those on. I haven't decided yet. But it's a good way to like kind of hold us accountable, so that way we can get out more often, because without having the mountains, like an actual mountains range, because Shenandoah is so far away, not really, it's like 2 hours, we don't necessarily get out of the city. All of our daytime adventures are like to the Air and Space Museum or to the aquarium, to the botanical gardens, which is awesome and good for getting out and in touch with nature. But also I want to hike. Like, I want to go on trails. I want to see trees and bugs and birds. It's hard sometimes for me growing up in the mountains to associate hiking with like a flat trail, but I'm trying to really open my mind to that. You also can open your mind to that, because back when we lived in Texas with my big kid, she's 9 years old now, but when she was an itty bitty toddler, we used to go to a place called Cattail Marsh. And Texas, most of Texas, is completely flat. There's not a single mountain. Like, you look outside your window and you can see for miles. There's no mountains. So we used to go to Cattail Marsh, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's just marshland. And it had gators. And at least once a week, we would walk 2 or 3 miles, and I have my stroller, but a lot of the time she would get out and walk as well. The gators are not that scary in the middle of the day because it's 100 degrees and they're sunbathing in the middle of the mountain. So it felt like hiking even though there wasn't any mountains. And walking is such an amazing postpartum hobby. So you want to get out in nature and feel the sun, feel the dirt, and really embrace those sights and the sounds. And as much as I like to walk outside in our city, urban walking has its own place. Walking the trails is totally magical. So many cities, even if you don't want to drive like an hour away, you don't want to go to a state park, national park, a lot of cities have parks where if you ignore on the far boundaries there being cars zipping by, you can still kind of get into that. You don't have to be hiking in the Adirondack or Shenandoah Mountains or out west in PNW. Just get outside in nature and walk. Call it a hike. Right, I'm not going to lie. TikTok got me into junk journaling. I've mentioned a few summer hobbies now that are outside, but not all of us are outside girlies. I've always been some sort of journaler, whether it was an actual diary when I was a kid or a blog. I tried to do bullet journals for a bit. Sometimes I still use my notes app because I like to keep track of stuff. Actual scrapbooking intimidates me. I am a hoarder for mementos, and I don't like throwing away memories. So junk journaling is getting kind of trendy. It's possible that you can get intimidated, like real scrapbooking totally intimidates me, but you don't have to fall into the propaganda of all of these techniques and the punch outs and the different spreads. You can literally glue a receipt onto a page and write a little note next to it. Now that whatever you purchase wherever you went is documented forever. I have a page that is entirely stickers from drinks that I've bought. Dunkin', Wawa, Sonic. Whenever I buy a drink, I rip off the sticker off the cup and I stick it to the page, and that's all I do. I have one page. Whenever my baby sized up, we went to Walmart and we bought her a whole bunch of clothes, like 10 shirts and 10 shorts. So I took all the sizing stickers off of her outfit and all of those outfits, and I stuck them on the page. Pretty much any receipt that I get, I stick them to the page. I doodle and put some arrows and some notes to remember the important things. If I don't have a receipt and I'm sticking something else there, I'll write the date in the corner because I want to remember it. I love using paper bags. Paper jet bags are such a good way to put on the background, and then it looks like a little bit something more. My big kid calls my junk journal a chunky notebook because it really is chunky. I've done like less than a quarter of my notebook, and it's so big. When we flew out to Omaha, I saved everything that we did, all of the kids' menus. Whenever we went to the zoo, I grabbed a map. Like anything you want, you can just stick to it. I watch TikTok for some ideas. Like that's how I learned that you can peel the cardboard. But I usually just wing it. I want to let the imposter syndrome take over. Like I just want to glue stuff on and tape it, and I use the washi tape and stickers, and I just want to remember what I did, especially all summer long when my routine is kind of crazy and we're going on all these adventures. And I think that it's important that we can look back on all of these fun things that we did, especially over summer vacation. Don't judge me. The final summer hobby that I think you should start this summer. We started to play pickleball. We played for the first time over spring break. We went to like a pickleball club. It was a restaurant with pickleball courts, and Ryan and I went on a double date with his sister and her husband, and we had so much fun. Like we had no idea what we were doing. It was windy outside, the balls went so we kind of just played like a mashup of tennis and badminton with the little paddle ball rackets, and we kept hitting the balls over the fence. It was chaos, but we had so much fun, okay? And then when we got home, Ryan and I watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos to actually learn how to play this game. And we went to Play It Again Sports, and we bought our fancy new paddles and a whole bunch of these balls. And then we bought little Kidlet her own paddle as well, but not as nice of a paddle as we have. And then we found a pickleball court, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's so much bigger, and I have to hit harder. Like, whew. Pickleball is just, it's so much fun, and it's a lot less stressful, I think, than tennis, because it's smaller, the court is smaller. Start small and then get a nicer one later. Like if you enjoy it, you can always get a better one. You don't have to invest straight out the gate with like all of this crazy stuff. Like buy yourself a low paddle and ball and go find a pickleball court, because they're popping up everywhere. And it's really fun, and you don't need 4 people. You can definitely play with 2 people. And even if you don't follow the rules right away, just volleying back and forth, or I think they call it dinking, which is stinking funny. But just get out there, get into the sunshine, get outside, learn a new hobby. It's fun. All right, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to my favorite summer hobbies. Let me know what you will be starting this summer, or if you already do any of these hobbies. I know that a screen-free summer isn't practical for everyone, but we can definitely do whatever we can to stop the scroll and give ourselves new screen-free hobbies. So as always, like and subscribe if you like this video, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye everyone.